What's up, everybody? I'm Lisa Brennan.
And I'm Justin Trice. Welcome to Crime of the Arts,
a true crime podcast that peeks behind the curtain to shine a light on the dark and untold truths of the creative arts.
From film set mysteries to celebrity murders and art heists, these two theater nerds will usher you into the unknown.
I'm going to tell you the story of the life of Johnny Lewis.
Oh, okay. And I'm going to tell you the story. I know you all heard of a Bronx Tale, but we're going to call this a prison tale.
Okay.
Stay tuned to find out what that's about.
So, do you know who Johnny Lewis is?
I do not. At first, I thought this was a musician, but no.
Nope.
Okay, you're not talking. Okay.
Did you watch Sons of Anarchy?
Yes.
You already know who I'm in love with, right? We all know that Lisa loves Charlie Hunnam and his long hair.
Yeah,
and
we know.
But
you're a Jax Teller fan for sure. Yeah.
He's not who I'm telling you my story about today. Johnny Lewis played Half Sack.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So this story is about his life and how it kind of spiraled out of control.
Ooh.
And I feel like a lot of people don't know this much about him. Like, I was kind of surprised. There's a lot of great articles about this story. One of them was written by Billy Jensen, which I don't know if you know who that is, but he's true crime podcast royalty at this point. Everybody should check him out. I'm sure most people who listen to true crime on a regular already know who he is. But so Billy Jensen is an incredible writer. I used some of his article in telling this story, and he's pretty much become like prominent in the true crime world because he kind of crowdsourced and solved a murder. Like,
really? Okay. So he kind of took everybody's feedback, sleuths, pieced it together. Oh my gosh. He got
the web sleuths on it. I mean, he's a Long Island native like us, oddly enough. He's got some cool shows on Discovery, and they have a whole bunch of podcasts. Him and Paul Holes, which is another person. I don't know if you know him. He was like a detective. He helped do the reverse genealogy to get the Golden State Killer.
Oh my goodness. No, see, I didn't know about any of this. And I feel like I saw a Law and Order episode kind of based off this. Like,
I'm sure
there was some murder and there was geocaching happening. And like this famous podcaster of the geocaching was getting everybody to link their stuff together to track the murderer. Like, that's what that sounds like to me.
The two of them actually have a podcast together called Jensen and Holes, and they're called The Murder Squad. It actually just ended. They're not making any more new episodes, but he also really covers the Long Island serial killer in a way that no one else does. Like, a whole nother theory comes out in his show on Discovery Plus or in the podcast you can listen to. It's super good. Fucking check it out.
Okay. I'm definitely going to have to take a look at that. And for those listening, you guys should take a look at it too, or listen and let us know your feedback on that as well once you hear Lisa's story.
This was his first article for LA Magazine, and it's fucking incredible. I used a few different sources, so check out the notes. Go read all of this for yourself. Jonathan Kendrick Lewis, aka Johnny, was born October 29th in 1983 in LA. So he's an LA native.
Okay. And he's not that much older than us.
He certainly isn't. He started acting at a young age because that's what happens when you live in LA, I guess. His mother started taking him to auditions when he was 6 years old. There, that blonde-haired, blue-eyed Lewis quickly won over casting agents who put him in commercials and then TV shows like Malcolm in the Middle and Drake and Josh.
Okay.
And as he grew up, he also snagged roles on shows like The OC, and he was a little heartthrob on that show. He was in Criminal Minds, and he played Half Sack on Sons of Anarchy. So despite his success, Lewis struck many who knew him as different from most young actors. He lived on Hollywood's frat row, and he dated one of my favorite pop stars, Katy Perry.
Really? He dated Katy Perry?
He sure did.
Okay.
But he wasn't your typical, frat jock kind of guy. He preferred poems to parties. One of his friends was interviewed. His name is Jonathan Tucker. He's an actor.
I feel like I do know who he is. Wasn't there a movie called Jonathan Tucker Must Die or something?
John Tucker Must Die.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about him.
It's not about him. Okay. Whoops. But it sounds familiar.
Let me look him up. Hold on. Jonathan Tucker. I meant to do this yesterday.
We're both taking a look now. And this was his best friend?
Jonathan Tucker is fucking Jay.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah. I just pulled it up right now.
Okay, so we're both assholes because this is like one of our favorite actors.
Is the Jonathan Tucker. Yes. And for those who don't know, this guy's been a character actor for like 2 decades. He's always looking entirely different in everything. If you have not watched Kingdom, which was a direct TV show now on Netflix, it's Frank Grillo MMA thing. Jonathan Tucker plays one of the most dynamic fucking characters you will ever see.
Ever.
Oh, he was also in Manifest, which got canceled and is coming back. You guys probably know him from there.
He was also in Westworld.
Yep. And he was on one of my favorite shows, City on a Hill, with Kevin Bacon and Aldous Hodge.
Jonathan Tucker was Johnny Lewis's best friend.
Damn.
So,
okay.
Damn, right? In interviews, he said that Johnny Lewis, that's what made him special. You know, he didn't do drugs. He didn't drink alcohol. He was just poetry and philosophy. And Lewis always saw himself as an artist and a writer. He was a lover of Keats and Kerouac and was constantly writing poems and screenplays. And he began to write 2 novels. And he filled his journals with philosophical ruminations.
Whoa.
So
okay.
He sounds like a very, complex person.
A very layered, creative dude. I would not picture that from Half Sack. But, again, that's the whole point. Yeah.
Right. Well, he's a talented actor. So when Johnny first heard about a place called the Writer's Villa through a photographer who was taking his headshots, he was intrigued. It was a house in the hills for the creative people, run by a sweet little lady. And she housed the likes of Val Kilmer, Parker Posey, Paula Poundstone, and Chris Purnell when they were all on the rise, enjoying the company of this good-natured landlady. If you want to see the house, I have the address. It's 3605 Lowry Road in Beverly Hills. And it was a luxurious yet homey place to be. And it was, exposed wood beams and rustic antique furniture and Saltillo tile flooring that matched the walls, which were like this warm red, yellow, cream, that California vibe I get completely.
Okay. It was like the true OC type deal for up and coming celebrities. It was.
Yeah. So, the centerpiece of this house was this like beautiful staircase with these inlaid ceramic tiles, and it had 5 guest rooms and some of the most majestic views of the San Gabriel Mountains. And in April 2009, he contacted the landlady, and her name is Kathy Davis, and he moved into the red suite on the 2nd floor. And I saw a picture of it. To me, it's just a normal room, like the walls are red.
Actually all red?
Oh, yeah, everything's red. The bed's red. The floor's red. The walls are red.
That's a little too much for me because
I know it's a little intense.
Isn't there something about the color red? Like it messes with the sensories. So you're just living in that room of all red. No, thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you remember, but my apartment for like 10 years was decorated in mostly red stuff. And when I changed to like a lighter hue, like a blue, I was like, I literally feel calmer. It's ridiculous. He immediately took to the place. And to Davis. People would hang out there with him. And one of his actor friends, her name was Bo Garrett, said, I remember all the nice things that he used to say about Kathy and how she opened this place to artists and eccentrics.
Okay.
But 2009 would prove to be one of Johnny Lewis's last good years. He then decided to leave his 2-season stint on Sons of Anarchy. He thought the storylines had gotten too violent and he wanted to work on a novel. Such an interesting thing because that show was really, really popular. So there must have been something that really like innately made him uncomfortable about how violent the show was just for the sake of being violent rather than storytelling.
Right. Or also, he had his own passion, like with the novel and everything else. He might have just really wanted to pursue that. It's not the first time an actor or actress was like, I just kind of want to leave the show because I'm feeling something else entirely.
Yeah. He also found out that his girlfriend, Diane Marshall Green, was pregnant.
Oh, okay.
Sadly, things soon started to kind of go sour. Over the next 3 years, he got hit with blow after blow. So in 2010, after the birth of his daughter, Culla May, his relationship with Diane deteriorated, and soon he found himself caught up in a bitter and ultimately unsuccessful custody battle for his infant daughter.
Oof, okay.
Yeah. And in October 2011, he lost control of his Triumph motorcycle near 29 Palms. At the hospital, the staff checked him for signs of a concussion, but he was allowed to leave after tests came back negative. His father, Michael Lewis, noticed that his son's behavior was becoming erratic and bizarre, though, after the accident. Had the accident shaked something loose in his brain? His father had set up 2 MRIs for Johnny, but he refused to undergo them. Friends picked up on Lewis's change in behavior too. During an acting class in December, he kept speaking in a vaguely British accent. And when they asked him about it, he kind of just like shrugged it off.
Interesting.
And by the new year, Lewis's behavior would turn from curious to dangerous. The brain is something we don't understand, so it's hard.
Yeah, it makes me think of like way back in the day, the same thing happened with Gary Busey. Remember Gary Busey's like on top of the world doing all of these comedies and drop like 48 hours, all that stuff. And then he crashed his motorcycle super badly, messed up his head. He has never been right since.
Well, this spirals quickly.
Oh, no.
So on the morning of January 3rd, 2012, Lewis was lounging in the Northridge condo he had bought for his parents, and he was watching his mother cook omelets, and he was clad in pajama bottoms and a t-shirt, and he just all of a sudden announced, "I'm going out for a stroll." And as he walked past the neighboring unit, he thought he heard cries of distress, and he broke in, but the place was empty. And not long after, two men arrived and asked him to leave. Like, what the fuck are you doing in my apartment? But Lewis went after them with an empty Perrier bottle and struck each one of them in the head.
Oh.
And a fight ensued, spilling out onto the patio. Lewis bit one of the men on the arm while attempting to flee, and he was overpowered and detained until the police arrived. And Lewis claimed he was acting in self-defense, which, I don't know, dude. You were the one in the fucking apartment. That wasn't yours.
Yeah, you broke in.
Perspective is everything.
Yeah.
So police charged him with trespassing, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. He was sent to the Twin Towers jail. I feel like we could pick a better name.
I was going to say, not a fan of that name. The moment you said that, I'm like...
Yeah, it's a little cringy, right?
Yeah, it's definitely cringy.
3 days later, his behavior landed him in a psychiatric ward on a 5150 code for involuntary confinement, and he remained there for 72 hours. What prompted that 5150 code is he started to smack his head repeatedly against the fucking cell wall.
Whoa.
And then he attempted to jump off the second tier and hurt himself. So they locked him up.
This is so wild, just blowing my mind because, again, he's half sack on the show, but in real life, he was this very articulate, dynamic person who's writing novels.
And this is the first time in his life he had shown any sort of violence, this attack.
Yeah.
So Lewis's father bailed him out, and his discharge summary read, chief complaint, blunt head trauma, and suicidal. Things quickly got even worse. The following weeks were a blur of self-destructive activity, including attempted suicide. He tried to slit his wrists. He became hypersensitive to light, and he even started disabling the power in his parents' house.
Like he was just going to the fuse box, turning it off.
Shutting that shit off. Yep.
That's crazy.
He cold clocked a guy outside of a yogurt store, out of nowhere.
I don't mean to laugh, but that's random as fuck.
Random.
You just decided to...
Random violence.
Yeah.
He walked into the ocean fully clothed, and he actually suffered and needed to be hospitalized for hypothermia. And then the last thing that he did is he tried to break into another woman's apartment.
Did he think he heard distress calls again, or?
They didn't say any of that. Yeah, no, they didn't say he heard anything crazy that prompted him. So doctors ended up prescribing him drugs, Zyprexa and Abilify, both of which are used to treat schizophrenia and bipolar disorder.
Okay.
But he resisted taking any medication and may have cheeked the pills, hiding them inside his mouth, pretending to swallow, and then spitting them out later. So part of the problem, according to his father, was that Lewis had yet to receive any kind of clear diagnosis. Was he bipolar? Was he psychotic? Or, as his father believes, suffering from a traumatic brain injury? He was quoted saying, "We got the motorcycle head injury." And then he's beaten in the head 17 times on that first break-in fight that landed him in jail. Then when he's in jail, he's pounding his head against the concrete and attempting to leap from a second-story pier. And then you have the doctor's own diagnosis of brain trauma. And that's just the stuff we actually know about. Nothing was ever pieced together or linked up to get to any sort of resolution.
And that's a major problem because, again, for argument's sake, let's say he had a concussion after that motorcycle accident that we left out unchecked. He's doing all these other things, adding more damage to his head. I mean, some of that could be irreparable damage now.
No doubt. I mean, we talked about it before, like Aaron Hernandez. Your brain just starts to die and it changes who you are. So after the attempted break-in, Lewis's probation officer noted that they were very concerned for his well-being, and not just his, but also of the community. And he was going to continue to be a threat to that community wherever he resided. And those close to Lewis agreed that something had changed. He was another person completely. Jonathan Tucker said he had a look that I've only seen in the eyes of disturbed veterans of war. His memory was scattered. He vacillated between basic lucid conversation and incoherence. Yet things seemed to improve over that summer. Jonathan Lewis spent time at the Ridgeview Ranch, which offered treatments for drug abuse and psychosis. And in a journal entry in July of 2012, Lewis wrote, "Felt more whole today, more complete, like parts of myself had been stolen in my sleep and scattered all over the world, and now they've begun to return." So he was sentenced to a year in jail in autumn for that second attempted break-in. And he only spent 6 weeks behind bars due to overcrowding. I love how the last story we told, Darnell Riley went to jail for 10 years for a fucking prank practically on that guy. But, you know, white celebrity with money gets 6 weeks out of a year. My brain hurts. So after he got out, his father was hoping to bring serenity and stability to his son's life, and he arranged for him to stay at the Writers Villa again. That's where he stayed briefly in 2009 when his life was good. Things were going well for him. That was before everything started to kind of crash. So September 26, 2012, 5 days after leaving jail, Johnny Lewis became agitated in his new home. It's unclear what upset him. His friends speculated that Kathy Davis, the landlady, may have reprimanded him after he tried to disable her fuse box. But what happened next is heartbreakingly clear. So I'm going to change perspective, and I'm going to tell you part of this day from the perspective of the neighbor. So enter Dan Blackburn.
Okay.
He's looking at a man standing at his front door, and that man says, "Hi, I'm John. I'm your new neighbor." And if Dan Blackburn wasn't completely stunned to see a bedraggled young man with intense blue eyes introducing himself at his doorstep, it was only because the former NBC newsman had just spent a good 15 minutes tracking that man's movements from his living room window. He was wearing nothing but jeans and red shoes. Blackburn's visitor had been pacing up and down the street. He was slight and wiry and shaggy blonde hair. His bare torso was slick with sweat.
Okay.
And there were other intrusions on the neighborhood's usual quiet on that late morning of September 26th. He had a house painter in the back who was on the first floor deck, and that deck overlooked that beautiful 1927 Spanish-style mansion, the Writers Villa. "Nice to meet you, John," Blackburn replied with raised eyebrows. The two men stood across from each other in Blackburn's doorway before John, who Blackburn would later learn was the actor, Johnny Lewis, abruptly walked away, and Blackburn returned to his morning routine. About 30 minutes after meeting Lewis at his door, Blackburn heard his wife, Gloria, anxiously calling for him. He rushed outside to find Johnny Lewis on top of the house painter, pummeling him with his fists.
Oh my God.
The worker's face was covered in blood. Specks of it were landing on the actor's body. So Blackburn stepped in to pull the 5'10" Lewis off the painter, grabbing him by the shoulders and yelling at him to stop. And in one motion, Lewis leapt to his feet and slugged Blackburn, who was in his 70s, right in the eye, knocking him on the ground. Lewis's expression was flat, his gaze distant, but he seemed to have a supernatural strength. He didn't flinch as Blackburn stood up and landed a punch on his temple. Blackburn then struck him with a chair, which stunned him enough that Blackburn, his wife, and the painter were able to escape into the house. They tried to shut the front door, but Lewis stuck his arm through the opening as if in a scene from a fucking horror movie.
Wow. Okay.
The three pushed their full weight on the door, slamming it 4 times until the arm finally slithered away, and the group barricaded themselves inside and called the police. From a window, Blackburn saw Lewis leap over the waist-high fence around the deck and pounce on the wooden fence surrounding the Writers Villa next door. His feet never seemed to touch the ground. He scaled the fence and disappeared into the villa. In an interview, Blackburn described it as him being like a Loki Spider-Man. It was like kind of unnatural. Within minutes, the police arrived to find a ghastly sight. The body of Kathy Davis, the 81-year-old owner of the villa, was found inside her home. Johnny Lewis, her tenant and attacker, was also dead in the middle of the driveway with his skull cracked in half.
Oh my God.
So what happened? How did we get here? Johnny Lewis confronted Kathy Davis in her bedroom, where he strangled and beat her to death before chasing her cat into the bathroom and beating it to death too. The coroner later noted that Lewis had fractured Kathy Davis's entire skull and obliterated the left side of her face, leaving her brain exposed. And that brain matter could be seen on the floor around her.
Oh,
Really viciously violent. And we find out that Johnny Lewis ended up going up on the roof and jumping off the roof of the house and dying in the driveway.
oh,
Confusion, shock, and horror followed in the wake of Johnny Lewis's death. At first, many publications speculated that Lewis had been high on something, and the LA Times even reported that detectives thought he had taken a synthetic drug known as C2I or Smiles. It's a psychedelic drug.
right.
But his autopsy found absolutely no drugs in his system. Indeed, though, the root of Johnny Lewis's actions proved hard to pin down. Several people close to him admitted that they weren't altogether surprised by the horrible turn of events. Sons of Anarchy creator Kurt Sutter went on Twitter and wrote this after he heard the story. He said, "It is a tragic end for an extremely talented guy who unfortunately had lost his way. I wish I could say that I was shocked by the events last night, but I was not. I'm deeply sorry that an innocent life had to be thrown into his destructive path."
Jesus, hold on a second. Okay, so
Go ahead, unpack that.
yeah, for Kurt Sutter to say something like that,
Yeah.
definitely means he probably saw something relative to that within set. You know, that whole reason that he wanted to leave probably wasn't the reason. They might have asked him to leave, or I don't know. That's a tough statement. I mean, unless Kurt Sutter was close to him the way Jonathan Tucker was, and he kept hanging out with him after he left the show, which I doubt.
I mean, Hollywood's a small pond. They all know everything. So I'm sure rumors ran rampant on how insane he all of a sudden became. Like, what the fuck is going on? I don't know.
Well, between that and again, I mean, he seemed to be like on the borderline of genius to begin with. For all we know of Sons of Anarchy, you know, it was more than the show's becoming too violent. Maybe he was getting a little angsty and almost harassing them to change it.
So some point the finger at Johnny Lewis's parents, both of whom are Scientologists.
Oh, damn. Okay.
And, you know, Scientology is a religion that discourages psychiatric treatments. But Lewis's father had said that he had encouraged his son to seek help. And Johnny Lewis's lawyer confirmed that. And he said, I give a lot of credit to the parents. They really were strong in trying to help him out. They really went to bat for him, but I guess they just couldn't do enough. And indeed, in the end, no one could. Head trauma can trigger behavioral changes. Some areas of the brain are particularly prone to traumatic brain injury. And if you have an injury in the frontal lobes, you can have significant changes in behavior, irritability, impulse control problems, and at the extreme end, violent outbursts. But Lewis was neither diagnosed with nor treated for severe head trauma. And the symptoms his father describes after the October 2011 motorcycle accident, headaches, light sensitivity, are indicative of a mild injury, such as a concussion. Which wouldn't trigger aggressive behavior. So what do you think? I have my own theory on what was happening.
This fucking sucks. At first, I thought maybe it was a concussion that went untreated. I have worked with some people. There has been occasion where someone has had a concussion, not even due to the show. It's like at home, like they were under the counter or something. And when they lifted their head, they hit it with such impact. Like that concussion really messed them up. It took them like over 3 months before they were kind of them. But I mean, I've seen them go through memory loss, slight behavior changes. Wasn't necessarily aggressive on their end. It was more just like they were spaced out.
Right.
But I thought he might have had a concussion and it went unchecked. Things got worse. But now I don't know so much. I feel like he might have always had an underlying issue. And again, he was so creative. Because the thing about schizophrenia and stuff like that, too, it doesn't necessarily happen at a young age. It starts as you get older, and he was already an adult. I think we might have been entering that next phase of whatever he was about to go through.
Most men are diagnosed with schizophrenia in their late 20s, early 30s. And that's exactly where he was at. He was like, I think he was 28 when he died, which is so fucking sad and young. But yeah, that's what my bet is. I'm going to bet you he was schizophrenic.
Yeah.
He was just like a freight train that was completely out of control, and he wasn't going to stop until he wrecked everything, including himself. I can't believe that this story isn't talked about more. I feel like this is one of those really crazy ones that not a lot of people talk about.
It's just swept under the rug.
Right.
That's crazy.
that is the story of the life of Johnny Lewis. It is a sad one. Mental health is so important.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a lot of people tried to help him. He impacted a lot of people's lives in a good way. He had a lot of celebrity friends. When he passed, they had a huge memorial for him. Katy Perry was absolutely devastated. And Jonathan Tucker, the way he speaks about him, he sounds like an eccentric genius who had his own ideas and his own ways of being and getting through life. And somewhere in all of that, he kind of cracked up.
So sad.
So sad. So sad. Do what you can to help each other and be aware of your own mental capacity if you have the ability to do that, but you can't save everyone, unfortunately. And there was no saving him.
Exactly.
And poor Kathy Davis and her cat. Horrible. Such an incredible woman. She was like a real estate broker who was just like single, had no kids. She was like, I got this house. It's awesome. How can I help? I mean, it was expensive. Each room was like $1,500 to almost $3,000, depending on which suite you had. For LA, it's probably not that bad.
It was her whole legacy, and it ended by an actor that she helped that whole time. That's what makes it even more tragic.
Ugh. All right, what you got, dude?
Damn. Well, my story is within the realms of actors and entertainment as well. Listen, we're all familiar with A Bronx Tale, right?
Yes. If she doesn't open the door for you.
the working man's a sucker, pa. Yeah, yes. Listen, it's a great film. Whether you're an Italian New Yorker or you're just into movies, it's a very solid fucking movie.
No, again, another classic. Justin, you love to talk about the classics.
I do. There's something about the classics. I got to talk about the oldies, but a goodie. So my story has to deal something about Bronx Tale. Everybody's seen it. I'm going to assume you've all seen it. If you haven't, go watch it. I'm ashamed of you. But yes, I can never say his full name correctly, the character's full name. So I always refer to him as C, just like half the movie they call him C, but Coligio, can't even say it.
Hold on. You got to you got to shake your hand.
Coligio. Yeah, there we go. Coligio.
There you go. That helps, right?
And I got to say it like I'm Chaz Palminteri. I'm like, but yes, Coligio, also known as C. We're going to refer to him as C a lot. My story has to do with the young actor who played him. And now that I'm saying this, some of you guys are going to be like, yeah, that guy was so talented, blah, blah, blah. Is he in anything else? Yeah, today we're going to talk about Lilo Brancato. You see what I'm doing? Yeah, there you go.
Lilo Brancato.
Yeah, Brancato. Cato. Yeah, we're talking about him. And apparently, that was the stage name he used. He's really Lilo Brancato Jr. But yeah, he became famous for his debut in A Bronx Tale back in '93 at the age of 17. Okay.
He was so cute in that movie. So handsome.
Yeah, every woman loved him. He was a heartthrob. And again, he had talent. I mean, he carried that whole fucking movie against Robert De Niro and Chaz Palminteri. So,
which is ridiculous.
That's no easy feat.
Right.
Like, he was definitely within that category of like, I don't want to call him child actor because he was already 17, but young adult actors that was very promising. Some people might have seen him later on in Sopranos and things like that.
I love how when you have an actor who's been in any kind of Italian-American mobster kind of movie, they just always do that. They just like stick there.
That's their thing. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess when the movie's that iconic, you're pegged for that.
Right. I have to tell you a side note story really fast.
Yeah, go ahead.
About how ridiculous my family is. Okay. So for those that don't know me, I have a family that Italian Americans, grew up in Brooklyn, and we're big in the Italian cheese industry. Formaggio Cheese is my uncle's cheese company, and he's filthy fucking rich because of it. But so what's hilarious and why it chimes in here is I was at his house, which is this like very, very ornate, like marble floors and walls and like super Gindaloon as much as you can imagine. And on the wall in his dining room is this huge portrait painted, hand painted. And it's all the famous mobsters.
Oh, damn.
The Godfather, Tony Soprano. And you're looking and you're noticing all these like famous actors in the painting. And then you get to one corner and he had himself painted in there. His business partner painted over here.
That's pretty
Dude,
funny.
I almost lost my shit.
That's pretty funny.
He's not a mobster, I don't think, but it's very hilarious.
You never know. A cheese company could be a good front for that.
I don't know if you could be in New York, be Italian, be a millionaire, and not be somehow connected to the mob, but whatever.
Oh, so before I even get into what this story is about, we'll go into a little background about my boy Lilo. And it would have been funny if you told me your uncle had a painting of this dude, because I was about to be like, make sure your uncle doesn't listen to this episode. I don't want to flip his world upside down because
as you said that, I just had a little flash because so he had a son and his son's name is Anthony Jr.
Okay.
Do you know what they call him?
C.
Lilo.
Oh, shit. All right. Well, make sure Junior doesn't listen to this because I mean, I'm not even literally the first few sentences right here it doesn't reveal what's happening in my story, but it already starts off with such a plot twist. So now I feel bad for Junior. So fasten your seatbelt, everybody. Lilo Brancato was born under the name of Saul Rodriguez on August 30th, 1976 in Bogota, Colombia. He's not even fucking Italian, people.
Yo, there's so many that are not Italian. James Caan was not Italian. He just played a mobster and everything.
I know. Well, we all knew he wasn't Italian, though. I mean, he was red-haired. He clearly looked like he was fucking Irish, but I mean, this guy playing C, I mean, he looked Italian, he acted Italian. And we find out, so yes, he was born in Bogota, Colombia back in 76. And his birth parents abandoned him at 4 months old. And then he was adopted by an Italian-American family that raised him in Yonkers, New York. So for all intents and purposes, yes, he's
an honorary Italian.
He's an honorary Italian, but he is Colombian. I just need to throw that out there.
Listen, the Italian-American culture is, especially in New York, is ridiculous. There's nothing. Okay. I need a soapbox again. I'm sorry. I'm stealing your story.
You're not stealing it. Go ahead. You're enhancing it. You're enhancing it.
The fucking Jersey Shore came out, man. Okay. I am an Italian American from New York. The Jersey Shore came out and I was mortified because
you found out most of them weren't Italian.
Doesn't matter. They're calling themselves Italian. And then people are looking at me like I'm fucking one of them. So I remember being in Brooklyn. I was going to see Christina and I'm in this like tiny little coffee house and there's a random kid sitting next to me and he starts talking to me and he's like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Long Island. I'm just here visiting one of my friends. And he's like, oh, are all the people on Long Island like the Jersey Shore? That's what people think here. I'm like, what the fuck? No, they're not. They're not like that. And their stereotype got like changed from this like cool, suave, like Lilo Brancato to this like hammered, poofy haired idiots.
J-Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. J-Wow. Oh boy. It makes me so mad. But I could see how being raised in an Italian American family, there's a lot of things that we all do.
Exactly.
You all have sauce on Sunday. You all get together with your family. The food is a cultural like being. Holidays are its own cultural being. So, I mean, even though he was born in Colombia, he was raised as an Italian.
No, you're right. And because they got him at 4 months. So, I mean, there you go. He was fully raised, developed as an Italian. And I get it. But
yeah, he had Brujol on Sundays with his sauce and his pasta.
But it was just mind blowing once I realized. I was like, what the fuck? Okay. But yeah, his adopted father, Lilo Brancato Sr., was a construction worker, and his adopted mother, Dominica, was an electrolyst. So in his youth, he like attended an all boys Catholic school in the Bronx named Mount St. Michael Academy, where he first studied the fine arts and entertainment. Like, it's just getting more and more Italian, so I understand.
Yeah, you can't even keep a straight face. He can't even keep a smile on his face while he's telling the story because it's getting more ridiculous.
So his initial claim to fame was that he bared an uncanny resemblance to a younger Robert De Niro, who he was a fan of since his childhood days. And it's true, because even when I saw that film, I'm like, damn, he does look like he could be Robert De Niro's biological son. I was like, where'd they find this guy from? So that's how he got noticed back in 1992. There was a talent scout that happened to notice him while he was swimming at Jones Beach. Like, how crazy is that?
Dude, that's like just the craziest stories how people get discovered. Like, just being at Jones Beach. There's a bazillion people at Jones Beach. How did they fucking notice him?
That talent scout was probably just like there on a day off, just chilling. And then this fucking Robert De Niro progeny comes out of the water, James Bond style, like a Bond girl or some shit. And he's like, this guy looks like Robert De Niro. That's what we needed. That's what we're looking for. God.
The good old days, huh?
Yeah, so the scout noticed him then and there and approached him. Then ultimately, Lilo did an impression of Travis Bickle. For those that don't know, that's Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver, which, I mean, that's one of his most iconic roles. Yeah. Yeah. So he did that impersonation, and he did a few more impersonations in a monologue from Taxi Driver, which impressed his talent scout so much that they swapped information, and ultimately they cast him as the son, Caligero, in Bronx Tale. This guy, notice I said that. This guy just came out.
Is it rubbing off on you?
Yeah. So this guy, no prior acting experience before. He joined the cast shortly. Yeah, no acting experience. He joins the cast shortly after he wooed basically the talent scout. And the movie was released like in September of 1993. So even though he was cast as one of the main characters, this is fun trivia here. And sometimes I always go back and forth with some of my friends about this because they just assume that if you are a main character in a film, they just assume that you're always making millions. And I'm like, half of these people are barely making like 100,000.
Yep. Even
though he was cast as one of the main characters on the show, they only paid him $25,000 for his involvement.
Oh my God.
Again, no previous experience. He didn't know he was being suckered by that price. They were
he was like, awesome, life-changing money for a 17-year-old, $25,000.
Exactly.
I mean, okay, with inflation though, it's probably closer to 40 or 50.
Yeah. Maybe a good 65,000. Yeah.
Ridiculous for the Bronx Tale.
Exactly. And that was way less his more seasoned castmates.
Of course.
Ultimately, the movie was well received and essentially helped kickstart Brancato's acting career because it basically put him in the spotlight. So from there on, he was in a few smaller roles back in the 90s, like Crimson Tide, which is one of my favorite films. And when they say small roles, like, yes, I remember that dude was in there for like 3 minutes, maybe. But he was also had a small role in The Renaissance Man. But going into the 2000s, he was able to find success crossing into TV when he was able to land a recurring role on the second season of The Sopranos. He played a young criminal that was associated with the mafia on the show. I remember that too, because I think season 2 that was like with Turk in them. It was like the I was about to say the Indian guys, but they were like the Middle Eastern guys that was interfering with the mob. He was part of that. So yeah, he had that going for him. And then he was only in there for one season though. Then he was gone. But everyone really liked his performance. It earned him more critical acclaim, some people say. Then he also made an appearance on another TV series that same year called Falcone, where he played the role of a mobster yet again. Surprise, surprise. And mob people.
Typecasting
for life over here. They're like, you played an Italian really well. You're going to stay playing an Italian. I mean, other actors have made their whole career off of that, though. So if it's paying your bills, I guess, listen, I'm not knocking it. Little did we know, though, that he would go on to replicate his performance as criminals from those movies and TV shows in the real world just a couple years later.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay.
Even from his early days back in the entertainment industry, Lilo had always seemed to be battling his fair share of troubles off the big screen. At the beginning of his career, back in 92, he started to use alcohol and drugs after being exposed to them by people around him. You know, he never mentions names, but
92. So he must have been like 18.
Yeah, he was like 17, 17, just going on 18. Because that's when he was filming for A Bronx Tale.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. And that's not legal drinking age, just for.
Oh, yeah, definitely not. Definitely not. Okay. And I mean, the drugs, he doesn't specify the type of drugs. He just says they're harder drugs. I can only imagine.
Probably a lot of cocaine.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, you know, he never names names. He never says it started while he was on the set. He just says,
take it to the grave. Otherwise, you sleep with the fishes.
But yeah, he started to use all of that. And by the time he was in his mid-20s, he was actually already addicted to cocaine and heroin.
Yeah.
While still trying to pursue his acting career. Imagine that. It's like after Bronx Tale, you kept going with your addictions and you're getting small parts here or there, but it's like, are you getting small parts here or there because no one's necessarily wanting to hire you? Or is it just because of your drug abuse is now impeding you going for what you need to go for?
Right.
Mm-hmm. So then that happened, and just 6 months before the incident that we're going to get to, he was arrested by Yonkers Police Department after they found heroin in his cigarette box and was charged with a misdemeanor for possessing a controlled substance.
I mean, if you're going to carry heroin, probably put it in your box of cigarettes.
Exactly. And then that's when, on December 10th, 2005, 6 months later, after Brancato and the father of his girlfriend at the time, Stephen Armento, and yes, I did say that correctly, this man and the father of his girlfriend were attempting to break into a vacant house that belonged to a recently deceased friend of theirs. How fucked up is all of this?
What?
You're teaming up with your girl's dad to break into the house of someone you knew that died. They were breaking into that in the hopes of scoring some more drugs.
Oh, they knew where his stash was.
Mm-hmm. Unaware that their friend had died a few months earlier.
Oh, they didn't know he died? They were just breaking into his house. They didn't know he was dead?
No.
Fuck. That's even worse. I thought if he was dead and you were like, oh, he's dead, but he had that box of heroin in his closet.
Nah. This story, like I said, this story has twisted turns.
They were just going to rob their friend.
They were straight going to fucking rob their friend. Yo, yes.
Wow.
So unaware that their friend had died a few months earlier, Brancato kicked out one of the windows before the two left briefly to try and get drugs from another friend's house.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
An off-duty police officer, Daniel, I'm going to butcher this, Enchadagu, heard the noise and went out to investigate the surroundings after calling 911. After Brancato and Armento...
Hold on, I'm still laughing at your interpretation of that name.
It's not an Italian name. It's definitely, it's like Enchadagu. Daniel Enchadagu. That's what I'm gonna go with. Enchadagu.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the gabagoo. I don't know.
Gabagoo. It's still Italian, dude. I'm telling you, it's probably an Italian name. That's really
it looks
funny.
French or some shit. But yeah. He had heard the noise. He went out to investigate the surroundings after calling 911. After Brancato and Armento returned from their other friend's house, like they're just going fucking friend hopping. This is the funniest shit.
No, they're not friend hopping. They're fucking drug house hopping.
After they returned from their other friend's house, they were confronted by Enchadagu while he was waiting for backup, which led them to exchange gunfire with one another.
Oh my God. And do a shootout with the cops?
Yeah. Armento ended up shooting Enchadagu in the chest. And killing the off-duty police officer. This is the girlfriend's father.
Oh my God. Wow.
He shot the officer in the chest, killed the off-duty officer as a result of their confrontation. But both Brancato and Armento were also shot in this exchange, but neither of them sustained serious injuries. When they were arrested, because obviously you fucking killed the cop and he had already called.
Oh yeah, they came for you.
And they had came for you. When they were arrested and brought to trial, Brancato was originally charged with the murder of the police officer before a jury found him not guilty of the charge in December of 2008. However, he was still charged with first-degree attempted burglary and was sentenced to 10 years of prison time in January of 2009.
Damn.
Yeah, and they tried to stick him for the actual murder, the death, and he was not the one who did it.
Oh my God. That was out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. We're gonna break into, and I'm just making up names now for the sake of making up names. That we're gonna break into Jimmy's house. We fucking break down a window. We decide, let's go to Billy's house. Billy has better drugs. We fucking leave Jimmy's house, go to Billy's house, come back now. Fucking, we're shooting it out with the cops. We done killed the cop. And your motherfucking friend's dead. You break it into a vacant, empty house. There's no drugs there.
0 to 100, dude. That's nuts. I mean, going on a drug hunt is one thing. Turning into a shootout and killing a cop is a whole nother fucking thing.
That shit sounds like a movie in itself.
It does, yeah. It sounds like a fucking movie he would have started.
Yeah, exactly. No turning back. That's what it would have been called.
Yes, it would have. And his poor girlfriend.
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine being his girlfriend being like, my daddy shot a cop with my boyfriend and now they're both in fucking jail?
That shit's just wild to me. Like, so yeah, on the other hand.
Wait, did they put him in Rikers?
It doesn't
Is this New York?
This is New York. I would assume he went to Rikers. I'm just gonna assume the man did some hard time in Rikers.
We gotta talk to your mom if she met Lilo Brancato.
I feel like she would have told me because she loves Bronx Tale, and like I feel like that would have been a recurring thing. Anytime that film's on, she would have been like, that motherfucker in my prison, but she never said that. So yeah, on the other hand, though, Armento would receive much more serious sentencing for his involvement in the attempted robbery.
Well, as he should.
As he should. And I mean, fucking murder, because they had discovered that he was the one who killed the off-duty police officer. So he was convicted of first-degree murder, and then he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, which, you deserve that.
Bye-bye.
Brancato. All right. I love teasing you sometimes. I know the answer to this. The answer is that...
What's the question? Hold on.
The answer is yes. Okay. Yeah. He spent time in Rikers. Brancato went to Rikers.
Okay.
He also spent time, they transferred him out of Rikers and sent him around Hudson Correctional Facility and Oneonta Correctional Facility while doing his time. Lilo was there for a split second at Rikers. Split second.
Lisa, tell us the stories.
She knows the story. I just I like her trying to guess for more. But no, also my mom never mentioned it. So I don't think he was there that long. Like I said, they had shipped him around quite a few prisons, I guess, because he was a celebrity or because he was a mobster that actually shot at a cop. I don't know. But yeah, he served part of his sentence there. Then he spent time in Hudson Correctional Facility and, like I said, Oneonta Correctional Facility. While still in prison, unfortunately, Brancato continued to abuse drugs, and he even suffered from a heroin overdose during his sentence on at least one occasion.
That's fascinating to me. Like you're literally there because you're in trouble and everyone needs to watch you. And then somehow you're still doing drugs in prison.
Yep, he's still getting them.
I understand that it's like its own world, but Jesus.
I mean, and now he's got nothing but free time to abuse it more. So
yeah, well, you literally, I mean, you're probably so fucking bored.
Yeah, that happened. He was eventually released on parole in December of 2013 on good behavior. He only did 5 years after he was originally sentenced to prison. So he only did 5 years time. Yeah.
Okay.
So after being released, he's had the opportunity to find some work again in the entertainment industry, landing some small roles in a few lesser known short films and movies over the years following his parole. Back in 2020, he claimed he has been sober for the last 13 years and was ready to continue acting and all of that since his career was put on pause due to the arrest. I'm trying to think
I don't know if it was put on pause. It was put to sleep.
Put to sleep. And I'm trying to think. I feel like I've seen him on one or two random things I happen to be watching, but again, they're like very indie things. Also, you might have seen this man. You need to look him up, Lisa. I know you thought he was cute. I know you thought he was a heartthrob. Oh God,
he's a fucking disaster now.
The man looked like he did time. Like he's like,
like he was a heroin addict for a decade.
Yeah, it looks like he's either aged well
Lilo
or maybe
Brancato.
Jr. Or if you just go to IMDb, the man has,
I got it.
Again, it could be genetics, it could be the drugs. But
there's a documentary called Wasted Talent. It's just his mugshot.
I'm sure he's the poster boy on there, and I'm sure a few other people are on there. IMDb has a video with him, and he just looks terrible. Time did not. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
The hair's gone. He looks like a used car salesman. I don't.
Oh, Jesus. Looking at the Verrazano Bridge. He really does look like a young Robert De Niro, huh? That's crazy.
Yeah. So unfortunately, Lilo was unable to recapture that same kind of success that he was able to find earlier in his career when he was first starting out.
Yeah.
Many have pondered what his acting career and legacy could have been had it not been for his arrest. Although he was still considered by many as a struggling actor at the time of his conviction, he was still relatively young at only the age of 29 years old, and he could have potentially been able to turn his whole career around had it not been for his poor decision-making and drug abuse.
Right.
So now at the age of 45 with a criminal record from his past, it may be all but too late for him to make his way back into the mainstream entertainment industry again and find work starring in a larger production.
I have no doubt that it is too late, especially when you look at him.
Well, yeah, after you saw that look. I mean, again, before what got him noticed was his looks. He did have the talent, but he never continued to hone in on that talent. And I mean,
it's something that has to be harnessed.
Yeah.
You need to actively work towards bettering your abilities. You can't I feel like he sort of got it handed to him because all he did was walk out of a fucking water on the Jones Beach, so he might not have really understood how hard that work really could be to develop your talent. And then, it's only so much you can do.
He probably felt like he was already on top. And, it's just sad because, again, for those, born in the 80s, or just born before the 90s itself, when it comes to young adult actors of the 90s or even child actors, we've had so many fucking extraordinary young talent.
Yes.
That either self-destructed and died, or they were dealing with their own personal battles and then ultimately they killed themselves. Like, we've had tons.
Yep.
Brad Renford, the dude from Neverending Story, like
all of the whole SNL cast.
Yeah.
They all died of drug overdoses. I was just reading something the other day. It was talking. It was when I was reading this information for Johnny Lewis about how these like mega talented young men are continuously lost.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Monteith, Chris Farley, John Belushi. It being drugs was something that was like easier to comprehend, Mm-hmm. But in Johnny Lewis's case, it was kind of... Again,
it's just crazy. Lilo falls into that category of he had a lot of potential and he squandered it and fucking did stupid things. And I mean, his time is gone. Beauty fades and
does.
Like it's over. Now, some of you might be like, that's kind of harsh. Anyone can make a comeback. Maybe he can, but somebody has to give him the chance. And I mean, in this day and age, if your only thing was A Bronx Tale from 93, is it really warranted for me to be keeping an eye out on you to give you another chance? I don't know about that.
I think the answer is no.
Yeah. So with that said, it's fair to say that people can be easily influenced by their surrounding environment and by things that they see in the media. Even certain entertainers may feel like the roles that they play in movies or TV series can rub off on them in real life and affect the way they act on a daily basis. That being said, there are very serious consequences for performing certain illegal activities in the real world that are often glorified in pop culture, particularly in crime-related entertainment that we consume today. So we must always hold those individuals accountable for their actions and understand the facts behind their decisions to pursue a life of crime in their everyday activities.
Don't do crime, folks.
Don't do crime, folks. Yeah, seriously.
And don't do drugs. They're going to ruin your life. We tell so many stories on here, and so many of these horrible things are people losing control of their lives due to addiction.
Mm-hmm. Be safe. Don't do crime, folks. Yeah. When you look back at the history of the creative arts, it takes a lot of darkness to create the light the arts bring to the world.
Thanks for joining us this week. And if you enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and go over to Apple Podcasts to rate and review.
Please check out our sources listed in the episode notes. They're amazing.
And you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Crime of the Arts Podcast.
We're looking forward to having you back next week. Until next time, peace out, everybody.
Peace out, everybody.